Hear that? That's the sound of a patient whose health data is protected from a cyber attack. And that's the sound of a financial system that's digitally secured from bad actors. Right now, there's an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield that impacts what we do every day. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done to help protect the vital systems we rely on. Because if we don't, the alternative is unimaginable. Peraton.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Direct-to-Video Connoisseur podcast. It's Matt here again as always, and I am joined this week by two special guests that we've had on before, Ty and Brett from ComeuppанceReviews.net. So thank you guys again for being on with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Oh, anytime.
Yeah, I was saying how it's kind of cool that, like, you know, my last episode I had Will from Exploding Helicopter on, who, you know, covers like the exploding helicopter kind of in all of
Yes.
the films, and
Awesome
you guys
guy.
got. You're right, exactly. He's fantastic, and you guys, especially with your podcast, but also in your blog, you guys cover like a lot of like other like kind of smaller things that come up. You know, like movies that have American in the title, or streets, or, you know, all the great names that we get with our characters.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, because I was telling him, like, you know, part of what makes his work so well is that it's almost like, as you guys always say, we do this with love. You know, that we're not just you know, bashing these movies, right? But we do it with love. And
We care.
right, exactly. And I was thinking it almost goes a little bit deeper than that. That it's like, you know, that old adage that if you're in a family, you can make fun of people within your family, but then when somebody from outside the family makes fun, it's like, oh no, that doesn't work, right? We all kind of gang up, and I think that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, not allowed.
No, that's a good point. If I can just quickly interject, that's what I always say with my friends. We were talking about music, and we talk about how ugly the Ramones are and how ugly the guys in Kiss are. We can only say that because we love the Ramones and we love Kiss. And so, yeah, we make fun of them because physically they're not very attractive, but we love their music and we do it like out of love in a family sort of way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the same thing with the kind of movies, like, you know, this is going to be a big episode for us doing PM Entertainment flicks and going over that. And I think part of the reason why I was happy to have you guys on to do this episode was that, you know, you guys are not just like, oh, we do big budget action and we're going to make fun of PM Entertainment stuff. No,
Right.
You guys,
No.
this is
No
the stuff
way,
that you guys
man.
seek out as well, and you love this kind of stuff. And
If anything, it's the opposite. We love PM and we make fun of big budget.
Yeah, exactly. We don't like that CGI,
Yeah.
Marvel type of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that's why it works. I think it's why your podcast works so well, which I love. Your most recent one on They Could Have Been Contenders. I think. Yeah. What's so funny about that one is it's like as you're going through the names of people that you had on there, like Butterbean was a really great name that I had considered. It's like
Butterbean.
what makes it so funny is you think about the names that actually did get direct-to-video action roles. You know, that like you're like, these names aren't that far-fetched that they would have been in a direct-to-video movie.
Well, that's what kind of inspired the episode, you know, because you're right. Who did get it, when you compare it against the people who didn't get it, there's not a huge differential there.
Right, exactly.
I know we always want Fabio or Butterbean or the silly one like Ann Landers. You know, it's like,
But I really think Fabio and Butterbean, if I really had to seriously pick two, those would probably be the two.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because Fabio came up because I thought of, like, you know, like Acapulco Heat, right? Where he
Yeah,
was like,
right.
what was like
plays
feature
Claudio.
He plays Claudio.
right, exactly. exactly. Where I think he got kidnapped one time, and that was like the extent of like his beyond just him showing up for a few minutes in an episode.
Oh yeah, I've seen the full series.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
of course I have. But yeah, he doesn't do much. He just sits in a in a lawn chair and says, "I'm Claudio."
But really, he should be mowing people down with a machine gun while his hair blows in the breeze.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like how when you think of the people that you put in these. I mean, if you can have Malibu from
yes,
how could you not have Fabio or Evan Lurie, right? I mean, Fabio is like I don't know if it's a big budget Evan Lurie, but he's like
But I know what you're trying to say,
yeah,
and Evan Lurie might be.
Hughes.
Oh yeah. So I say Evan Lurie might be coming up later when we get into PM a little bit more.
You might know what we're talking about.
Right, exactly, yeah. And thinking about like Joe Lara, another one who probably we might be bringing up in a little bit. He's another one like you look at him and he just looks like a male model. When yes, he can fight. He has martial arts skills, but it's like he just looks like a male model. Why would Fabio, who was a male model?
I know. It's inexplicable. I mean, maybe they thought there were other guys in that space and they didn't want to overload it, but that doesn't seem likely because everyone was trying to get into that video market back then. So yeah, I really have no explanation, and so that's why he was at the top of our list, I think.
Yeah, and Butterbean I never even considered. I kind of forgot about that.
I'm shocked by that.
I know.
Because how perfect would Butterbean have been in these like PM Entertainment films we're talking about? Where it's like you could just see like some henchman guy punching him in the stomach, and like it has no effect. And
right.
The guy kind of like looks up, kind of like that shocked face.
He's like, oh.
Right?
Well, yeah, no, I definitely see Butterbean as a bad guy. Or like a kingpin type, but on the other hand, he could maybe be like a Bo Dietl-esque cop on the edge. I don't know,
Yes, yeah, a lot of ways.
He's like an ill-fitting suit, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, when he has to go before like the police board, he has to somehow get into a three-piece suit.
Yeah,
right, maybe,
it doesn't look too good, but it's funny.
Yeah, the pratfall of him like breaking a chair when he sits down, right? Like they
chair
and he break it, right? It's like
see, now we're getting into Barbarian Brothers type territory,
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, again, you're talking about two other ones that like. I mean, I guess Barbarian Brothers were more bodybuilder types, which was kind of a bigger thing than Butterbean, which is kind of like he's this big guy that So maybe you could see that they were a little more photogenic, but now before we get into the movie, I wanted to see what have you guys been watching lately? Anything good that's come up recently?
We just watched yesterday Fast Gun with Rick Hill.
Oh yes.
Ever see that one?
No, I haven't, but Rick Hill definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not surprised you haven't seen it because it's kind of rare. Like, there's not too many VHS tapes out there in the marketplace. I think Ty had to get it on eBay.
At the end, eBay and a screener copy. No,
and it's a screener, yeah.
Wow. On VHS?
VHS, only on VHS.
If you've seen other Cirio Santiago movies, which I know you have, and I'm sure whoever's listening to this has, it kind of follows the formula of like The Devastator or Final Mission or Silk. It's definitely in that vein. It's almost like Cirio's tribute to the Western. Like, even though it takes place in the modern day, it's kind of like his love letter, you might say, to the Westerns he probably grew up watching when he was a kid in the Philippines. Except their firepower is much inflated. Like, instead of a guy having a 6-shooter, like the main hero has a machine gun and the bad guys have rocket launchers.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, I would have to try to track that one down because, I mean, yeah, Rick Hill and Cirio Santiago just sounds like that's always a great pair. I think they've done a few other ones together. I think
Devastator.
That's right,
Devastator.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Yeah.
And I think he was in Dune Warriors as well, which we're going to be watching soon.
Yeah, it's in our pile.
Oh, you guys haven't seen Doom Warriors yet?
Not yet, but it's in our pile.
Yeah, it's funny because that's the one that kind of one of the ones that kind of got me into DTV. It's one that I had a friend that I met in French class in high school where our last names were both started with P, so we sat next to each other. And I was having him over for a sleepover, and I knew he was a big sci-fi fan. So I'm at the video store, and I'm like, oh, Dune, that's a sci-fi franchise. He'd love that. And he's like, no, that's Dune Warriors. That's not. And so we watched it, and it's kind of one of those ones that, like, nowadays, if it was streaming, you wouldn't watch it because the friend would be there for the sleepover, and you'd see Dune. Oh no, that's not really Dune. Okay, next thing. But I watched it, and we were just like laughing, like because I mean, they use a lot of new. If I remember right, because I reviewed it for the blog a little bit, like about 10 years ago. So I haven't seen it in about 10 years, but I think if I remember right, they use a lot of pneumatic catapult in that like people are just being shot all over the place.
Well, we'll keep all this in mind when we watch the movie.
Yeah, watching it real soon.
Yeah, it was a good one. For me, beyond seeing these PM Entertainment movies that I've been watching to kind of get, kind of go back to revisit some of my old favorites, I saw Samurai Cop 2 recently, and I gotta say I wasn't sure what to think of it. Have you guys seen that one yet?
No, just the first
No,
one.
I've kind of been avoiding it because I don't know.
A little gimmicky.
It is. It's like when I'm watching it, it's like I'm watching. I'm like, I feel like this movie was made for us, for our kind of movie watcher. It's a little over the top, and it's made by the same people who made the first one. But I'm like watching it. I'm like, like the fight scenes were kind of way too goofy. Like it was almost like like green screen stuff, and you can't see people fighting each other and stuff like that. But then it's like, Matt Hannon, who is now Matt Paredes, I guess he's going by his real last name. Like he's on a plane ordering kombucha, which is kind of funny. And like Mel Novak shows up, and you're just like, they're only putting Mel Novak in this movie for us. And so I get like, I watched the first one again just to try to get a better sense of it. I think I'm probably going to watch the second one again, but it's really weird. Like you feel like you should like it, but there's something off about it. And I think maybe you're right. Maybe it's too gimmicky, and that might be what the problem was.
Well, I think
to beat the first one.
Well, I was to say the first one is like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, lightning in a bottle. It's just about
you can't recreate that magic of that type of movie we're always talking about, like Get Even or Night of the Kick Fighters or Dance or Die. Yeah, American Kickboxer. Movies like that where it's like it captures this magic. The thing is, you can't intentionally capture the magic. Yeah. I don't think.
I think you can't intentionally make a cult film.
Yeah, that's what our buddy always used to say. You can't intentionally try. Well, you can try, but you can't intentionally make a cult film. A cult has to develop naturally around the movie, and I think the fact that they have Tommy Wiseau is kind of a wink to the audience.
Yeah, that felt like it too. And the other thing too is they use a lot of green screen in this, and I think when I was watching Samurai Cop recently, just to kind of see it because I hadn't seen it in a while, one of the things that was great was that they were using real sets, and so it's like. It's like, with like the whole thing, like where the guys in the burn unit who was, they originally kill and chop off his head, or, Zadar chops off his head or whatever.
Yeah.
But like when you see them, he's the next door says has a dentist's name. So it's like, like place, and it's like they're using the same lobby for the hospital that they're using for the police station. And so like things like that when those kinds of like low budget things that when you try to green screen it and just have like a green screen background that's supposed to make it look more realistic, I think it's not as much fun as it's like like these PM Entertainment movies we're going to watch where it's like you can tell it's an office park that they're using for the police station or something like that. There's something more fun about that, I think, than green screening or computer generating a police station for the establishing shot.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you're definitely preaching to the choir on that one. We're always talking about that.
Yeah, I think that maybe, talking it through with you guys here, I'm kind of getting a sense of why I'm going to watch it again just because I feel like I need to give it that. I mean, again, if they're going to put Mel Novak in a movie for my benefit, I feel like it deserves a second.
You owe them something. Yeah.
Right, exactly, but
I know you love Melvin Novak, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think who else was in it like that. I mean,
isn't Bai Ling in it?
Bai Ling is in it, yeah. And so, right, like Bai Ling, it's like she's just kind of over the top the whole time, just kind of screaming and stuff, and it's like. When I think of bad Bai Ling, I think of like there's this movie Dark Breed, I think it was called, that she did.
Yeah, Dark Breed.
Yeah, with Adrian Paul and Bokeem Woodbine. Like, like that's kind of the Bai Ling that I need. I don't need her to be so crazy that she's like, all over the place. Like, just a little crazy Bai Ling works for me.
What was that one? Code Hunter? It had Adrian.
Yes.
The Highlander.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
No, Pazdar? Was it Pazdar?
No, not Pazdar. Adrian Paul.
Oh, Paul.
Yeah.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
Code Hunter. Coolio.
With Coolio, yes. And I don't know if that one, it seems like a lot of Adrian Paul direct-to-video ones are movies that were failed pilots for like syndicated TV shows.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we all love the Highlander
show.
Well, I've seen the complete series. But
me too, yeah. Yeah, that was when syndicated TV was at its height, where you just, you could watch that kind of stuff. They
seasons.
Yeah, I think they invented the city Seacouver, which is where he lived, and until he moved to Paris. And so it's like he was like a professor. He was like an antique.
He's like an antique dealer, and then,
with a ponytail, and so
of course. Well, I mean, but that's a lot of action stars ended up in these syndicated shows, like Fred Dryer.
Yeah.
Land's End. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah. And then obviously Lamas in Renegade.
Oh yeah.
Best show of all time.
Yeah.
Well, I know you own it on DVD and have seen every episode.
I've seen every 100+ episodes and all 100+ episodes.
Yeah, what a great show that was. I mean, I think the earlier seasons were a little bit better. Like,
yes, I agree.
The best is like, because what happens? I think Kathleen Kinmont was married to Lorenzo Lamas, right? And then they split,
yes. Mm-hmm,
and then
she's gone.
Right, she got rid of the show, I guess. And so, I mean, Branscombe Richmond was always there, and I always think it's funny to see him in stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's Bobby Six Killer.
Bobby Six Killer, yeah.
Right? When I used to watch the show with my dad, he always called him Bobby Six Pack, and so he was, oh, there's Bobby Six Pack again. So.
But really, that's like Renegade was like a syndicated show of an action movie that you'd get at the video store, except it came into your home.
Right,
for an hour a day.
Yeah, what was it? I think the way it was packaged for me, I think initially it was on Friday nights. It was syndicated with Street Justice with Brian Genesee and
what a life.
Yes.
So Street Justice, that's another show you've seen, Ty, right?
I just watched that last year, and I finally got around to it. Yeah, it was 2 seasons of Brian Jennings and Carl Weathers beating people up.
Yeah.
There's a punch fighting episode, too.
Yeah, what was his Carl Weathers' his character's name was like Boudreaux or something like
that?
Yeah,
Boudreaux. Yeah. Oh, that's a good memory about it.
Well, because I remember we used to call each other that after we were watching the show. Like we would just call each other Boudreaux, like as a kind of like it's kind of like a pejorative thing, like get out of here, Boudreaux, or great job, Boudreaux. It's like kind of.
They usually get mad at Boudreaux because he gets a little bit too hot under the collar.
Much like Fortune Dane.
Fortune Dane, or Action Jackson, or Hurricane
Smith.
It's usually his name. Carl Weathers was usually in the movie where his name was the title of the movie.
Yeah. It's kind of funny when I watched I think it was Coffee Brown, or I don't remember. I think it was Coffee with Pam Grier, where he plays the villain, and I was like, how do I can't make sense of Carl Weathers as a villain, because he was just always like the hero and like the guy that was like easy to root for, and he would just kind of show up and beat people up and shoot things and escape, and kind of like not quite like Danny Gloverish. He was like his own thing, but that was that character that he always did, and so seeing him as a bad guy was always tough.
Well, let's not forget when Carl Weathers jumped over that car, Action Jackson.
Once you jump over a car, there's no going back from that.
You gave us that link to the picture of Lamas jumping over the car in Bad Blood.
Yes, that was a great one.
We talk about that jump almost every day.
Yeah, I know. We mentioned it yesterday. We always talk about that. That is one of the best car jumps, I think, ever. And that's not an exaggeration.
Because it's like he's almost like a standing still, kind of just like, and he kind of flips too when he does it.
Yeah, he flips too.
It's like even the most highly trained athlete on earth doesn't have like an 8-foot vertical leap. I mean,
only Lamas, only Travis Blackstone.
Yeah. Only Travis Blackstone can do that.
Oh, what a great name! I know.
He basically took off from a standing position.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
you go boing, and
it's like he had springs in it, or like a Mario, right? They had that little spring thing that he would jump on.
So...
Yeah. Travis Blackstone has one of those.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. It just carries it around. Well, yeah. So
we're gonna get started.
Yeah, exactly.
Blackstone all day.
I know we could. I know Lamas is probably one that it would be. He would be an interesting episode to do. Would be a Lamas kind of talking about his career.
Sure. Maybe we'll have to do that.
Well, if you do that, invite us back, and if we do it, we'll invite you.
Yeah, because I think he's one that, like, for people that are out there that are listening to this, I think he's kind of like, I think it would be intriguing for them more than like like if you do a Dolph one or like his PM Entertainment one, I think is going to be one where it's like people are like, oh, I can't wait to hear what they think about PM. I love PM, that kind of thing. Whereas Lamas, it's going to be like, what are they going to say about Lorenzo Lamas? Like, what is this going to be?
Well, it's interesting you should mention that, because yesterday Ty and I went to Salvation Army in Hamden, Connecticut, and we found a very interesting Lamas movie.
I will say 13 Dead Men.
Have you heard of that?
Mystical, the rapper?
It's called 13 Dead Men. It has Lorenzo Lamas and Mystical, and the cover art looks a lot like Half Past Dead.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
Did you see that one?
I wonder if I've reviewed that one.
I think you did. I think you reviewed that one.
It's funny to think about the fact that I don't know all. You guys are probably in the similar boat because you guys have done more reviews than me.
Oh yeah, I can't remember. Ty can remember. There's movies that I can't remember.
We didn't review 13 Dead Men yet.
Right, that's what you haven't done yet. I feel like I might have done that one. I've
I'll
got
have to take a
Maybe you
look.
blocked it out.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
that could be too. I've done over 30 Lamas films, and so yeah,
Oh, that's
Wow.
amazing.
yeah, he's in the 30 club on the direct-to-video connoisseur. He's in the Hall of Fame as well. So
This is almost like a Lamas episode now. It's like,
right, I know we're
Yeah, we're talking about PM. But he was never in a PM.
Sure
If we can
was.
maybe tie those together. Oh, he was?
CIA, Codename
CIA
Alexa.
movies, right?
Oh, yes, right. Yes.
O.J.
Yeah.
Simpson.
With OJ, right.
Yeah, it's funny because Art Camacho directed this. Yeah, so
Yes.
I believe I did do this one. Yes.
Did you like
So
it?
we can tie that together. We can go right into PM from that
Perfect.
because
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
and talk about a segue.
Right, exactly. Well, it's funny because I was going to talk about some, before we get into the PM Entertainment thing, talk about a couple additional resources people can look to about PM Entertainment. And one of the interesting ones, I found this article when I was looking them up on Wikipedia called it was an article by this online magazine called Hope and Fears.
Oh,
And-
I read that. Yeah.
Did you read that? The oral history of
Yeah.
PM Entertainment? Yeah, that's really fantastic. And one thing that's got great about that is that it has Kathleen Kinmont does. She actually did talk about the sex scene in was it Art of Dying?
Art of Dying. Yeah.
She talked
Wings.
when we found her in the milk and everything. She talked about that a little bit, but it's funny that you mentioned because she was talking about doing movies with them, and of course, CIA I think was one of the ones that she did.
CIA 2 was directed by Lamas.
Yeah, that's right. One of them had Alex Cord, right? I think the first
The
one.
first one did, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of those ones. I think Alex Cord, right? He was the baddie, and he was the one, right? Like one of the guys on his team, like screwed up and he cut his eye out.
In CIA 1?
I thought so. One of those two. Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie.
I know Alex Cord was the co-star of Airwolf.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Let's see, I get Alex Cord mixed up with Robert Culp, so I'm having a little trouble here.
Yeah, that's easy to do as well. Yeah. At CIA, I mean, I think with PM Entertainment, I think they kind of got everybody. It was, but that article, I think I'm glad that you guys you read that as well, because I think that's something people should, after hearing this, that's one place to go to check out, because it's really cool kind of how they get into how all that started and all of that. Another place too was speaking of Exploding Helicopter. When I was with Will, one of his previous podcasts, he had on Chris Kavinsky, I think it is, from Bulletproof Action. And,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and when they talked about T-Force, he mentioned Bulletproof Action actually has a list of their own PM Entertainments that they really enjoyed. So that's another place people should go after this. That's another great. Chris Kavinsky. He talked about. He seemed to have a good grasp of the history of them, and he talked. They have a list up that's really cool. It'll be interesting to see because
Take a look.
I think they had a couple things a little bit higher than I think we're going to have them. So it'll be interesting to kind of see as we go through how those go.
Well, let's see. What's it, top 5?
Well, so before, and looking at my blog, I found 13 Dead Men, so I did review that.
Did
one.
review that?
Yeah.
Did you I hope you liked it.
I said, but overall a disappointment. So that's
Okay, we'll keep that in mind.
We'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. But yeah. So looking into kind of the history of PM Entertainment, it's I don't know about you guys. I saw a lot of their movies through like. Maybe not HBO because my parents didn't have that when I was growing up, but definitely like on cable TV. And whenever I saw PM Entertainment, I thought that meant like stuff that you watch in the evening, like it's just kind of like right. And I didn't realize that it was Pepin and Murphy, the two guys that ran the company. That's why they came up with PM Entertainment. One of the things that I noticed when I was watching a lot of these movies was that there seemed to be, especially in the later '90s, this theme of like. The world is just full of lawlessness and violence, and it takes, the criminal justice system has let everybody down, and that's why you need this person to go outside the criminal justice system to, take on the bad guys. And it seemed like that one came up a lot. I mean, the Sweeper. It was prevalent in that
yes,
one.
that would. I think this, since we're getting into it, no spoilers, but that's on our list. Is the Sweeper?
Perfect. Yeah, mine too. Zero Tolerance had that.
Yep, that's on ours.
Yeah, and I don't know if you notice like when you watch them, a lot of times they start off with like maybe like a radio talk show or a TV segment, talking about the violence and how horrible everything is. With Recoil. Bombshell. When I was watching that,
on the list.
Exactly. So that one's a big one for me.
Yeah.
That opening scene where you've got these bank robbers with body armor that you have to shoot them in the head. That actually happened in L.A. These two guys robbed a bank around that time, maybe a little bit before then, wearing body armor, and it was a real violent robbery. Like they actually killed one of the
they made a
tellers.
movie out of that.
They made a movie. It was a 44
minutes with Michael Madsen.
Yes, yeah. So it's so they were pulling things from the headlines, and I thought maybe that was sort of like an overall ethos that PM Entertainment was going for, but no. Reading that article about the oral history, it sounds like no. It was more like places like HBO that were looking for content, or the video stores that were looking for action movies. That really the feedback they were getting is this is what people want. This is what people are looking for in their movies, and that's what they were trying to give them, as opposed to being like, this is how we feel about the world, and we're going to work this into all of our movies.
Well, I mean, as we've said before, what's good about DTV is they can work fast. So either they can respond to something in the news way faster than a big studio movie could, or because they had to rely on their ideas more so than their budget, they would come up with stuff and they'd be ahead of the curve. Yep. So it's one way or the other, it's going to work out so that it either looks like they're taken from the headlines or they're before the headlines.
Yeah, and that's what that oral history talked about, was that they were pumping stuff out quickly, they were banging it out, and they were talking about shooting like 11 pages of script a day, and yeah, so you can tell when you watch these, you can see. But I think also one of the things I like about them, and I think you guys might agree, is that even though you know that these are being pumped out really quickly, it's almost like, especially with the action, it's like, especially with the really good ones, you get an initial action scene, and it just gets better from there.
Oh,
and
I got a good example of that one.
Yeah, dude, yeah,
Last Man Standing.
Oh, with Wincott.
Wincott.
Yes, the Wincott, yes.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites for sure.
He does that jump with the motorcycle while the car's exploding, all in the same frame. And I went, whoa, that's awesome.
Well, you're talking about delivering the goods to the audience. I think one of the things about PM is that it knows its audience, and it does seem to put a lot of time and care into the action scenes so they will deliver for us. Yeah. And that quality, that sense of that they really care comes through.
Yeah, it's like they wanted to. And from what I read in this article, too, is that they wanted to keep pushing the envelope, that they wanted to keep showing what they could do on a budget that was a lot less than what – I mean, they were saying, like, some of the scenes that they did, they would see them in big budget movies and know that their budget was like the craft services budget on that big budget movie, Yeah, and I mean, I think it comes through in this. I think you can definitely – we talk about the love, having the love. Like, you almost see with them making it that they had it as well.
You can tell almost in every frame, like they really care.
Well, and to the point where they had some trademark stunts, like the car flipping and blowing up in the middle of the street. That's like a PM. They could almost have a little R with a circle around it next to that, because they pretty much did that, and they were so good at it. They did it in, 10 plus movies.
Yeah, and you just wait for it. Like, yes, here it is again.
Well, and it was always interesting to see how they were going to make it bigger. Like, okay, so this movie was just like a Ford LTD or whatever that's doing the flipping. Next movie it's a bus. Or
it's a bus.
Yeah, it was always gonna be something.
I mean, if you think about just like the physics of that, just the logistics of that, of flipping or blowing up a bus, like that probably took so much work, but it's only on screen for less than a minute.
Second. 30 seconds.
And it was like a whole thing together where you've got directors, cinematographers, everybody on the same page, because you only got one bus, and so because with their budget they only got one bus, so
they can't screw it up. But I think in that article, which is very lengthy and people should read it, but I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the same pyro people, like the people behind all the explosions, there's only so many of them in Hollywood, and some of those same guys worked on the big budget Hollywood products, but they also worked on the PM movies. And so they had those same pyro technicians, but they worked for PM as well. And so that's why maybe it's not quite to that Hollywood theater ready level, but it's very close.
Yeah, you make a good point, because I think when it comes to those guys being contracted to do that work, they probably weren't getting paid huge amounts of money the way that like an actor that's on the star, or the director, or whoever else would get paid. So they're getting paid whatever their rate is. And so they needed more work. They needed to do stuff in between, and probably also too, they're only on the set for a short period, right? They're just doing the few explosion scenes that day, and then they're done with work. So they probably have other time. So they were there to be recruited to do these kinds of scenes.
Well, and they're like the unsung heroes of these movies. Like no one, including even us, the super fans, we don't really know their names.
We don't know their names. Well, the Spiro, right?
Oh, well, the Spiro's Rosado, so he was a stuntman.
Right.
Yeah. But the pyro people, what's interesting about, which is another reason why I hate CGI explosions, because then you're putting these artisans, really these technicians, out of work.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. I mean, yes, they're more dangerous, they're more pricey to do them in real, but you're right. Like all of these workers are not getting work because there's, now that they're blowing up the helicopter using CGI instead of actually using practical effects and
model or miniature.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And like I said, it comes across. I think that comes across, and before you're saying, well, yeah, they're not like an actor, they're not in front of the camera, and they're not going to be paid accordingly. But in the world of PM, it's almost like the explosions and the action and the blow-ups and the shooting, that's almost like a character in of itself,
Yeah, for sure. It was such a hallmark of the movies, and you could expect that whatever you were seeing in the beginning, it was going to get better as it went on, for the most part, right? If the movie worked, that was how it was going to work.
But that escalation is what makes for addictive watching.
Yeah.
If the fact that they're going up and up and up the ladder,
every movie,
it keeps you watching. It keeps your eyes glued to that screen. If they weren't doing that and they were just wimping out, you wouldn't care.
Right. Exactly. So why don't we get into your list?
Here we go.
So you guys start with the list, and like I said, if it's one that's on my list, we'll kind of get into it together, and if we'll kind of go from there.
All right. Well, Ty, you got the list. Go for it.
I think number 5 would probably be Hologram Man.
Oh yes.
Okay. And I just watched that recently for the first time. Ty had reviewed that before I was really writing the reviews for the site, and Ty had done that. So I just watched it like a couple weeks ago for the first time, and I was very impressed. I think that's top tier PM. If no one out there has seen that, that is a must watch.
Yeah, complete agreement. I just rewatched it recently.
Nice.
It's got kind of everything that you want out of a
Yes.
I mean, first off, Evan Lurie, I think he co-writes it. That whole Slash Gallagher thing,
yes,
Don't Norman. Yeah, just fantastic. It has that idea too of okay, in the future we don't know what to do with crime, so we're gonna turn these people into holograms, which we don't know, how that's a punishment for people, but I guess that works.
Like
they keep them in. Right? I was saying they keep them in a jar.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I mean, but the action, you're right. It's it starts off right off the bat. John Amos and Joe Lara. Yeah, all of a sudden some car from a Sirio H. Santiago movie comes flying in with spikes.
Maybe some bikers, yeah.
Yeah, it was just all over the place, but it was all amazing. All of it worked, and I think for me that's one that yes, the idea of the hologram man thing and the whatever it was, the foam or so, they had some kind of putty or something that was supposed to encase their hologramness.
Because Wesley Snipes or Simon Phoenix was in cryogenic stasis for about 500 years.
Yes, right.
John Spartan also.
Right.
And yeah, thank you for that. But if you look at it, and I've mentioned this to Ty before, but if you just look at the title, you have Hologram Man, and then if you look at what came before, we have Demolition Man and the Lawnmower Man. Right. So obviously it's going to be called Hologram Man because it kind of follows that pattern of Demolition Man and Lawnmower Man.
Yeah. Another thing about this that I noticed is, and we'll probably be talking about more about these with PM movies, but Joe Lara is a guy that, yes, he had martial arts skills, but we talked about how he kind of just looks like a male model with his big long hair and his dreamy eyes.
Kind of
That's what I always think. Yeah.
And from his acting ability, it never really worked because you were like, how am I supposed to root for this guy? But Hologram Man made him work.
Yes.
He had a beard. He was more grizzled.
He was more grizzled. He starts off as a rookie with this sort of doughy-eyed rookie with John Amos, and he becomes a little bit more grizzled. The PM could make these guys work. We're going to talk about C. Thomas Howell, I think, in a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But, and so that's another thing too is Joe Lara is someone that like we talked about with Fabio and stuff like that, like, he had the skills. He was, he had the martial arts skills. So he maybe should have been a bigger star, but that look was just so like 90s male model, like, just not something that really screams action hero. But this movie made it like you want to see Joe Lara kick ass, and that was a big thing for me too. That I was rooting for. That I found myself rooting for Joe Lara.
Well, yeah, and I think once he was. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ty.
All right, I'll go ahead. Well, when I talked to, if you listened to one of our last podcasts, I mentioned that I met Cecilia Doran.
Yeah.
She worked in Hologram Man. She's like, yeah, Joe Lara was trying to be like Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, that's true. You have an autographed copy of
Hologram Man from Cecilia.
Amazing. Yeah, that's so.
She laughed. I don't know if you probably heard what we said, but yeah, she laughed. Like, why do you have this?
But she wasn't ashamed. I mean,
no, she wasn't ashamed. She laughed.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is when Joe Lara was cast as Tarzan, I think that's very good casting. I think he can play a good Tarzan.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. There. Perfect. So Hologram Man is your 5th best, and I might have had it a little bit higher on my list, but I think I definitely see it there where you guys have it.
And I would say if there's beginners out there, like if there's people out there who's never watched a PM, I do think Hologram Man is basically a perfect place to start.
Yeah.
And another good one to start with would be Last Man Standing, which you already kind of talked about.
Yeah.
But that's just an excellent movie from start to finish, completely entertaining. You get sucked in to the story.
I watched it recently.
Yeah. And it's Wincott at its best. The stunts are fantastic. And this movie just delivers the goods. It has good cop drama, and it really talk about a movie that has everything. Out of the sci-fi realm, which, is really where Hologram Man is, and this is more like the cop drama realm, this delivers.
Yeah, and they did a lot of those cop. I mean, I think what you're talking about, like, this is a good introduction for PM Entertainment people, but also anybody who's not familiar with Wincott's work. This is a really great starter for him too.
Yes, yeah, I couldn't imagine a better one. Yeah, Mission of Justice, Martial
Law 2
are also good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the things I don't remember if this is the one where I joked. Yeah, so I did Last Man Standing right after I did Cyborg Cop with David Bradley, where David Bradley's wearing a fanny pack. And I did
Classic fanny.
Exactly. I did this joke about what it would be like if somebody making a movie tried to get Jeff Wincott to do. It's like you can see the wardrobe guy coming up and be like, Mr. Wincott, I have your fanny pack. He just kind of flips an eyebrow, takes a drag off his cigarette, exhales. The director told me you needed to put this on. Another drag, and then just kind of a monotone. And it's just like
I'm not wearing that.
Well, it would be a bit like getting like Clint Eastwood to wear a fanny pack. Like I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. This is definitely one of my favorite PMs as well. I think it's one of those just like high octane action ones.
Yes.
And it really fits that PM paradigm where it's just like the one guy against the world kind of thing that I think really works well for them.
Yes, and as a personal viewer, it floats my boat too, because I think we're all sick and tired of the bureaucracy and of the politicians and all that. And I think that's a fantasy that we all have of just bursting through all the red tape.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this one's definitely for me. Now that you mention it, because I think I had this one. I had Hologram Man above this one, but kind of talking to you guys about it and just thinking about, Jeff Wincott, I think as a star, I like him better than either Evan Laurie or Joe Lara.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and this one spotlights him so well that I think it does fit definitely that high up for sure.
Yes, and before we move on, I just want to say that Dale Apollo Cook also wore a fanny pack.
He wears a fanny pack in all of his movies.
Right, yeah.
With Evan Lurie, actually.
Yes,
American Kickboxer. Was that the movie? American Kickboxer 2?
He wears a fanny pack. He wears like a blue ill-fitted shirt and a fanny pack.
And sweatpants.
And sweatpants. And
that was my introduction to Laurie, was American Kickboxer 2.
Oh, really?
This guy is amazing.
What an introduction.
Yeah, I was like, I got to see this guy in everything. And he really is Laurie in everything. That's what makes Hologram Man, I think, so good, is that it's like the best of what you expect from Evan Laurie. And he wrote it. He wrote the movie, but
he's perfect as Slash Gallagher.
He is perfect. Yeah, he's really good at Slash Gallagher. I don't think he ever got a better role than Slash Gallagher.
Yeah.
He had a good role in Operation Cobra.
Yeah.
With Don the Dragon.
Yeah. That was a good one too. Yeah. Where's yours?
Okay.
All right. So what's up? No, so that was number 4 on your list.
Yes. I think number 3 would. Let me think. Oh, okay. Zero Tolerance.
Yes. Oh man. So this one is probably right in the same place for mine. Love this one. This is one I watched recently last week.
Awesome. Robert Patrick at his absolute
another
best.
one man against the system.
Yep, I love that. Those are one man army movies.
Yes.
I was telling that to Brett. Like, well, people like fluffy clouds. They feel relaxing. I need machine gun fire. And like,
everyone has the thing that makes them feel relaxed.
Relaxed, but yeah, I have machine gun fire and punching.
Well, that's because you're all man,
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and Robert Patrick, who, I think people see him as sort of a Hollywood actor, but he did a lot of DTV, and I think this is a fantastic role for him, and also Miles O'Keefe and Titus Welliver.
And of course, Mick Fleetwood.
And Mick Fleetwood.
It's like very PM Entertainment to put Mick Fleetwood in a part that makes sense, like he worked on his part, but also to kill him off before his lack of acting ability could hurt the film. It's like,
And it was great. I guess we'll have to say the spoiler. He shoots Mick Fleetwood in the head at the casino, and then 6,000 cars blow up in Las Vegas.
Yes, it's like it was a bit, and it's like, and it's like I love Miles O'Keefe talking about it after with the other guy, which I think the other guy, the guy who played Manta or whatever that guy's name was, I think he does like commercials now. I think he's like bald.
Is it Welliver?
Yeah.
No, it's not. Is it Welliver? Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Well, he's Bosch. Now he's Bosch.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so he does do other stuff, but yeah, I just love how Miles O'Keefe is freaking out on him, like, this guy just walked into all the security. You know what that means? He's someone who has what is it? He's someone who doesn't care or something like that, or somebody who has nothing to lose. That scares me. There's something,
and that's what we as viewers want to see.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with it's like. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say another great cliche of that is like, no more mistakes to their henchmen.
Yeah, we mentioned that a lot on the site. The no more mistakes moment where the bad guy's getting a little too close and a little too good.
Like, this guy's getting too good. No more mistakes. And there's more mistakes. And
always want yes.
And MM.
Well, it's like, because remember, it was like the guy who was making jokes, who was with Manta, his second command, who was supposed to kill Robert Patrick, and of course Robert Patrick knows that his limo that he's in is going to be blown up, which I don't think that's a spoiler alert, because if you're watching a PM Entertainment movie, you know that cars are going to blow up if people are just sitting in them. So yeah, so that's so we knew right, we knew Robert Patrick didn't know until he realized he was in a PM Entertainment movie. Then he realized, I got to get out of this car because it's going to blow up.
He shoots all those cars with his shotgun and they all blow up.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like Ty, when we were talking about yesterday, on The Simpsons, when the leaf touches the bus and then the bus blows up. And that obviously
better than the old bus, and then they cut the leaf blowing up the bus. The teacher strike episode.
That leaf blowing up the bus is obviously taking place in the same universe as the PM world, because things blow up at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's like that point where I think those guys, the baddies, go to like attack, or they try to like finish the job against Robert Patrick at his house, and he's like, that's it, I'm done. And for us, when the PM Entertainment movie, I mean, there's some great action before that, where it's like, when they're down in Mexico with the car chase.
I remember that in the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, and so you have good stuff there, and then it's like the moment that kind of thing happens, when it happens in this, it happens in Recoil, where it's like that character's just like, I've had it. For us, it's almost like that Tiger Woods birdieing on the 18th green to win the Masters.
Like, yes.
Pump.
You pump your fist. Like, yes.
Well, I think that's what you call the yes moment.
A yes moment. It's like, yes, now he's taking out the trash for good.
Yeah. And it's almost like you and I kind of am okay with it if it it takes like a half hour for it to happen, because it's just like once it happens, you're like, okay, this character is unleashed, and now it's going to be a whole bunch of. Yeah, exactly. Just like, let's see the explosions. Let's see the stuntmen in like blazers with ponytails shimmying to their death.
And they're on fire.
Yeah, set on fire. I mean, I that's one thing about Zero Tolerance, I think, is you have a really great cast. You've got really great actors that are in the movie with Robert Patrick, but yeah, they really build that moment up where Robert Patrick is you get the sense he's this guy who's really well trained, who could do this kind of thing, but that he's more he's trying to be a family man, he's trying to do all this stuff, and then it's like, his family's dead, and you see scenes that were not really workshopped well, like with the girl talking to him on the little girl talking to him on the plane, and it's just kind of really creepy that a little girl's talking to an adult man that is not anywhere related to her or friendly with her, and just like this whole thing is like really uncomfortable, but it's supposed to tell us like Robert Patrick is still thinking about his family that just died, and I think maybe because of it's the movie sense, like they're worried that we're going to think like we're going to forget it's not a big deal to him that his family was just killed, which it was. We know it was a big deal, but you get those kind of scenes, but you're really just kind of like we're watching those scenes knowing that those scenes are just getting us from action scene to action scene. And they're just sort of like,
because Patrick can pull it off.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
That's the thing, when you have a good actor like Robert Patrick who you care about his plight because he makes you care.
Yes.
And before the Unleashed moment in a lot of other movies, a character will put on what we call the revenge outfit.
Jacket, yeah.
Or which usually consists of like a black jacket, cargo pants, tactical clothing.
The best one was Jeremy Irons in The Fourth Angel. He wears his revenge jacket.
Yes, Jeremy Irons. Well, see,
Oh, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, something just cut out.
The LA Heat?
Oh, there we go.
Who cut out?
Oh, Brett, I think you cut out for a second there.
Oh, okay.
That's right. You were talking about LA Heat.
Yes. Well, because I was just saying how Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, he puts on a revenge outfit. I believe in that.
Yeah. And I think it's that moment in these, with these PM Entertainment movies with the whole like, one guy against the world kind of thing. One of the things too I like with PM Entertainment, this one didn't really have that, is that there's that angry police chief who's like telling them that like you're screwing this whole thing up. You're da-da-da. You're like,
I love
and they
that.
they turn in their badge and they're like, that's all right, I'm not a cop anymore. And it's just like another one of those.
Slams his badge down.
Yeah. No, I love the turn in your badge and gun moment because that just means you're all the more unleashed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what we
want.
No
rules.
Yeah, you're not constrained by the system.
Right, exactly. Right. So that was number 3, and I think that would be my number. At least my number 2 or 3. That one's one of my favorites as well. Zero Tolerance.
Well, number 2, we have Recoil.
Oh yes.
It's almost very similar to Zero Tolerance. It's just Gary Daniels getting revenge because his family passes away. Yes. But don't want to give any spoilers. He passed away.
Yeah.
But you got to have a reason to have revenge. So.
And he takes out so much trash.
He does. This one for me is almost like if PM Entertainment was doing Shakespeare, where it's like like this Bob Boss guy whose son is killed, and let's say in a way that makes a lot of sense for him to have been killed. I mean, he just like this idea that he was killed in cold blood by Daniels and these cops, because just to give people an idea, the movie starts off with this huge pitched battle between bank robbers wearing body armor and a whole bunch of police officers who are getting shot up. People are dying all over the place. I mean, Daniels finds a girl in a car because the mom was shot and killed. I mean, it's just violent and horrible. And they chase this kid down who's one of the robbers who's riding riding on a motorcycle, throwing grenades at them, shooting at them, doing all of these horrible things. And so they corner him in an area. They think he's about to pull a gun, so they shoot him, which makes complete sense. They all of these. Right, these 5 cops almost died like 30 times in the first 20 minutes of this movie. They have a right to think that this guy is going to try to kill them again. So he dies, and then it turns out the kid was the mob boss's youngest son. So he puts out a vendetta to kill all of these cops to get them, to get his revenge. And of course, the one cop he tries to kill, Gary Daniels, survives, and then is, as we all know, is a force unleashed.
Unleashed. When he's in that party with the pool.
Yes. Yeah.
And a great scene, pool scene.
Oh, that is like, and what's great about that scene, I think too, is how it starts, where it's like they've got guns, and then Gary Daniels loses his gun because he gets taken up by one of the mob boss's other sons, and then the mob boss is yelling because it's a party. He's like, no guns, and it like creates a scenario for us to see Daniels' martial arts first, and then go into using more gun fu after.
I think Ty and I were talking about and not just having Recoil. I don't know if we're allowed to cheat like this, but to have Rage, Riot, and Recoil almost be on the same plane, which we call the 3 R's of PM. Forget reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's actually Rage, Riot, and Recoil. That's what they should be teaching kids in school.
Yeah, forget those other things. Never heard of math. It's all about Daniels.
Because because I do, Rage, Riot, and Recoil. I would say if we could almost do like a tie for second place, I would maybe put those three. Just they all seem to kind of go together, almost as like a loose trilogy. I mean, I know that's not the intention, but Rage, Riot, and Recoil, I think, would be recommended titles for anyone out there who hasn't seen them.
Yeah, the beginning of PM. Like you want to start.
Yeah, I think especially, and similar to what we were talking about with Jeff Wincott, somebody who's not familiar with Gary Daniels, those are great places to start with him as well, I think, because they, Rage, I think, maybe shows his martial arts ability a little bit more than Recoil, where Recoil, he does some martial arts, but there's also a lot of shooting and car chases and things like that. But I think just like we were talking about with Wincott, I think anybody who's, I'm trying to think of some other Gary Daniels great ones. I mean, Blood Moon is a great one.
Blood Moon.
Oh, yeah. What's the one we just watched? Was it Capital Punishment?
Capital Punishment. Yeah, that was silly fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the sillier side, but it's a lot of fun.
Is that the one where there's like a car that's it's like an LTD that's painted black that's supposed to be a police car or something like that? And like the first
hard
scene.
To remember. I mean, I remember he beat up some guy with a bunch of change, and he says, "Keep the change."
That's right.
Yeah. I was hoping he would say, and he did.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So maybe there are some Beyond PM for Gary Daniels that are a little bit better, but I think you could do a lot worse than Rage, Recoil, and Riot for if you're not familiar with Gary Daniels. And
definitely, and plus in Riot he teams up with Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah.
Not Sugar Ray the singer, I guess.
Exactly.
I was gonna say Robinson, but I think he's from like the 20s or something, so it can't be him.
Right. No. Yeah.
But he does bring his like boxing style to the fight scenes. Yeah, like there's like a bar fight. He's doing like these body blows like a boxer would, and it's kind of interesting. But I know there's that scene, Ty, that you like with all these guys on like motorbikes surround Gary Daniels.
Yeah.
And he uses like a stick to like knock them all off the.
I definitely was pumping my fist on that one. And in slow motion too, and they're on fire.
Right, because Riot is almost like a Warriors kind of.
Oh yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, like none of these are die-hard paradigms. Like these are not like he's stuck in a room and he needs to get out. Like they're all kind of me against the world paradigms, but they're like a little bit different. I think Rage, right? That's the one where he's given a drug or something, right? Like
I just rewatched that. Yeah. You get the drug, and then it was that big mall fight scene at the end. But it was really about the news of the day,
Yeah.
But I do like that mall fight scene because there's a video store in the mall.
Yes. Yeah.
And I always like to see when there's a video store. There's also a video store in Fast Gun. But
I think I make it a KRS-One video.
Well, yeah, it was like 3 letters. It's an old-fashioned Western street. I mean, it takes place in the modern day, just really quickly. But the only difference really of this old-fashioned Western street is on this Western street they now have a video store, which is kind of cool. I was just saying in that mall scene, there's a video store, and I believe there are posters for other PM movies in the windows.
Oh, which is awesome. I always love that kind of thing. Like I know Roger Corman does that a lot with his movies. Yeah. That is always really cool when they do that.
And then you get jealous, like, oh, I want that poster.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you want that VHS or DVD.
Right.
Wow, that's true.
The whole thing, I think, with PM Entertainment, it's like the VHS is like the big thing, right? Because it's like I know it's you guys with your Instagram with Ty Action Rocks. It's like every time seeing one of those VHSs is fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, but with the poster, it's like kind of like a next level kind of thing, right? Where it's like
that's true.
Yeah, like finding a poster in good shape in the secondary market is like even harder than the VHS.
That's really hard. Yeah, I don't know if I have a PM poster. I'd love to get one for Zero Tolerance. Or
yes, I know.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they probably made them obviously not for theatrical posters, so they were made for video stores. So I think people thought they were disposable, and I think a lot of people just like threw them out.
Yeah.
Like put them out in the window for a week at or your local video store, you say Tommy K's or one of these places.
Well, that's what we had, but and then then they're gone because people didn't collect them back then. So there's less of them, I believe.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, because it's like, why did you need to keep them? And I mean, that's what with PM Entertainment, part of the reason why they became so big is that they were filling space on these the video store shelves where so many there's so many video stores that were popping up in the 90s in the early 90s that they needed content, they needed movies. And people were going through the big budget things so quickly because some of them they'd already seen them in the theater and all of that, so it was like, okay, we need to we need more product, and so PM Entertainment came in and said, here you go,
here's some awesome products for you. That's better than most theatricals.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, and that is like the next level down. Like if you have seen if you're like an action fan, you've seen all the big Schwarzenegger and Stallone, and you're looking for something else. PM would be like the next place you go.
Level. Yeah.
Then
you go. Then you go Leo Fong.
Then you go to AIP.
Right, yes, and that was the thing is that these like also I think they I know I caught a lot of these through like HBO and cable when they when they'd be on those channels, and that was another thing too for HBO. They didn't have their own programming. They didn't have their HBO. I don't remember when Oz came out. I think was that the first of their TV shows was Oz.
It was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
That was like late.
I think The Sopranos might have been one of their first.
That was like 99.
Oz was first? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think that was like 99, 98, 99. So at that time, HBO was like we needed product we needed films to kind of put in between the big budget ones we just got the rights to show. So they wanted this kind of stuff, and then now suddenly it's like, well, no, we'll just show reruns of Sopranos in that time spot. So they didn't really need PM Entertainment.
It's unfortunate because they should show them now. They show them now. It's like because the old days we had the preview channel. They ever have the preview channel?
Oh yeah.
Where they had like the scrolling guide. So they used to show trailers for Hologram Man. That's how I first heard about this. It's like Hologram Man, Galaxis. I think I mentioned it on the Video Store Memories episode. Yeah. But I gotta see those.
Yeah. What was I going to say? All right, sorry. Lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry about talking about Galaxis.
No, I was happy you were talking about Galaxis. Because, you got to watch something while you're watching for your scrolling channel to find out what's on.
Exactly. Like, I missed it. I missed it.
I missed it, yeah.
I'm watching this Galaxis trailer, and I missed what was going to be on.
Well, exactly. It's very distracting.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Well, I think we have a number one spot. We must agree of this one.
I have a feeling we do. Yeah, what is your number one?
Sweeper.
Yeah. I don't know if it's my number one, but it's. I think I might swap Sweeper and Recoil on my list for number one, but I love this movie. This is definitely it's at least number two if it's not number one for me.
I mean, I can talk about the Sweeper all day. I've seen it at least 4 or 5 times.
Well, see Thomas Howell like you've never seen him before, and at his best.
He has that greasy hair and hat. He's shooting at people, and
there's that amazing stunt where he's on the roof.
Yes.
At the beginning of the movie, he's chasing that guy on foot.
He like hangs the guy. I don't spoiler.
It's the beginning.
It's PM Entertainment, right? So it's like but actually you're right because you wouldn't have expected that from PM Entertainment. Usually the scene is instead of him hanging the guy, right? He brings he kind of like the guy's all beaten up and everything, and he brings them into the police station, and it's like, oh, you got another one. I can't remember what his character name was, but you're beating up another guy. You're out of control. But it
you're
was
out of
part
control,
of the,
Mark Goddard.
Right, Mark Goddard. That's
right. That was good.
That's right, Goddard. That's right. Right. The whole thing with this was that he was part of something called Justice Incorporated, which I don't know if you can buy stocks in Justice Incorporated. I'm not sure how that works.
It's publicly traded.
Right. Exactly.
They rang the bell.
Right.
On Wall Street.
Well, I think their IPO did better than Facebook.
Right, exactly. But the idea, right, is that if you kill 9 people in the line of duty, if you kill 9 baddies in the line of duty, you get invited to this Justice Incorporated where you get paid much more handsomely than a cop would, and you essentially perform hits on baddies that are sort of untouchable by the law, right? They can't be busted by the law.
What a system! I want to be part of that. I want to be part of that group. I haven't killed 9 people yet.
Well, it's almost like what's it? It's the Dirty Harry's in Magnum Force, where there's like an underground sort of
cop system, like the Star Chamber. But that's the worst example.
But then later on, Dexter was doing that kind of thing. Like if you watch Dexter, when the baddies would slip through the hands of the law, then Dexter would go after them.
Yeah. And one thing I think about Sweeper, I mean, there's a few things that stood out for me. One is Ed Lauder, like how they use him perfectly in this movie.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's like kind of the villain.
Yeah, and you think of Ed Lauder is just always, I don't want to say throwaway, but he's this character actor that we would just see in everything in the 70s and 80s, and it was always kind of I don't know, unremarkable thing with him. You know, like you knew he could act, you know he could do stuff, but I mean, it takes PM Entertainment. There's something about the way that they did things where they made it was like perfect casting to have Ed Lauder play this part.
It's perfect. It's really the only person who could play the part.
Yeah.
Well, they did give people a chance. You know what I mean? I think they really believed in their actors, and because it was like a B-level Hollywood, they were more than willing to give the character actors like that their due and their time in the sun.
Yeah. And of course, you know, the movie starts off with a really great car chase where Jeff Fahey, who's playing his dad.
Dale Goddard.
Dale Goddard, right.
Right.
A fantastic car chase there, where you've got, you know, motorcycle wheelies and people, you know, he's like, you know, Jeff Fahey's chasing after him in a motorcycle while the baddie has apparently cops bring their teenage sons along while they're on their feet.
I remember really that. I watched it last year for my birthday.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, but, you know, I think they're trying to say they eat, live, and breathe police work. Like, you know, like another cliche, and obviously when we say cliche, we don't mean that in a negative way. Something you always see was like, my dad was a cop, my grandfather was a cop, which that line is in lots and lots and lots of movies. I think that's what they were trying to get across.
Yeah, they were giving us that sense. And I think, you know, that initial car chase, like that is, I would say most action movies, that car chase would have happened at like the 45 or 50 minute mark, and that would have been the cornerstone of their movie. Would have been that initial car chase on the waterfront there with the motorcycle and people being flipped over the cars and all of that. And then you get what might be one of the best car chases ever with the oxygen tanks when he's chasing that guy.
How do you think of that?
Yeah, and I mean, you like he's like balancing. So it's like what, like so the guy, he's chasing this guy, and the guy sees a truck driving by with oxygen tanks, and he like shoots a belt or something, right? So that the oxygen tanks start falling off, and then he starts shooting the oxygen tanks, so they're exploding. Things are blowing up everywhere, while C. Thomas Howell's character Mark Goddard is having to like kind of navigate all of this.
Yeah, that's amazing, absolutely amazing stunt.
Yeah, and you're thinking like, how can this get better? So then you get the C. Thomas Howell's character. You know, he drives up next to the truck with the oxygen tanks, pulls one, and kind of edges it out so that it lands on the front of his car. So it's on the hood.
I remember that. Yeah.
He just speeds up really fast, gets to the trunk of the car in front of him, stops short, so the thing goes flying into the car, and he blows it up. So then you're thinking, so this should be the cornerstone of any action movie, right? So we've already had two cornerstone like chase scenes. So now I'm thinking like, well, how is the third chase scene that ends the movie going to be better than that? Oh, well, let's bring in a prop plane, and let's just, you know, like let's have this planned lane on the freeway in California, and I mean, and of course, like it's very C. Thomas Howell where he drives underneath that oil tanker thing, and it cuts off the top of his car, and he's like, it's a convertible now or something like that. It's like,
I remember. Yeah.
it's like you're like, okay, you're reminding me you're C. Thomas Howell, but I'm still excited by this huge action scene that is just all over the place. And it's like, so then the one that they wrap up with, you're thinking like, this is a big budget style action sequence. I mean, all three of them really are big budget style. You know, any movie that you watch that had any one of those in it you'd be thinking how amazing this movie is that they did that. The fact that this movie had all three of them, and it was a sweeper with C. Thomas Howell, is just astounding to me.
Well, yeah, because if you think back to the French Connection, you know, everyone talked about the French Connection car chase, and that was, you know, what people talked about from that movie, the big car chase in French Connection. But that was it. Like, it is, and not to, you know, that's foundational to the action genre, but that was it for that movie, The French Connection, or Bullet. But then the Sweeper kind of does that 3+ times. You know, instead of just that one big set piece, there's multiple set pieces.
And there's numerous shootouts. Everybody's, you know, getting, you know, blown up, and it's like,
oh yes, I mean, flaming guys falling out of buildings.
I love that.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, it was nonstop. I mean, this is definitely for me. I think the only reason why Recoil is a little bit higher for me is I think the Gary Daniels martial arts factor. But you know, talking about it with you guys here about just how much the Sweeper did in its movie for you know, again, a low budget PM Entertainment. I mean, I guess like when I think about Recoil, I mean, there was that huge chase scene where like he is when they were like he was trying to shoot the guys in the limo, right?
Oh, that's a great bit where the limo, cuts in half.
Right. Yes. And like there's that huge explosion where I mean the cinematography on that where they catch Daniels' character kind of flying forward off the bridge while the explosion happens. I mean that was just another just completely inspiring, just so amazing. And again, like something if you saw that in like I don't know, Lethal Weapon or something like that, you'd be like, oh, that's amazing. It would be, it would make all people's lists about best chase scenes and stuff for all time. But because it's kind of entertainment, people don't know it as well as they should.
I know, it's a real shame. And that's because people didn't see these on the big screen. Like if PM had a chance to be in theaters, I think that would change a lot. Like to see these things with an audience on the big screen, I really think people would talk more about PM.
Now, one thing I want to do, since we've kind of gone through our list, I want to do a couple honorable mentions really quickly. One for me, T-Force did not make my top 5, and I think I really love that one. The only reason why it did make my top 5 is that I think the paradigm where you've got these robot guys, instead of where the usual PM entertainment is where you've got like this vast army of baddies. That it's almost like against impossible odds. And I think,
goons.
I love a good goon army.
Yeah. And the other thing I think is because it was almost like with T-Force, the action scenes sort of didn't go progressively better. It's like you've got that initial scene where Vernon Wells takes over the big building, and that's really fantastic. And the thing I actually love is that Evan Laurie's character is in trouble for blowing up a helicopter with people in it, and it's almost like him saying like, I'm in a PM Entertainment movie. Like, what do you want from me? Right?
what do you think I was going to do?
Right? Why are you going to shut me down for this? I'm living in a PM Entertainment movie. But then there's the scene where they raid the police station, which is nice, but it's not quite as good as that one. And then the end scene where it's sort of Jack Scalia and his robot partner against Malibu and Evan Laurie. That one doesn't quite. It's almost like. Unlike what we were talking about with these other PM Entertainment ones that really worked, where it was like great action building on great action, it was almost like for them it kind of went in the opposite direction. Even though they were great scenes, it's almost like if it went in the reverse and it was like they did the Vernon Wells thing at the end, that kind of thing. I don't know, but that's one reason why that one didn't make my top 5, even though it's really fantastic.
Well, I can see why it's a good honorable mention. But what's interesting is, I was thinking of two things. One is just to talk about the flip side of the sweeper and showing the range of C. Thomas Howell, where it was also a PM movie where he was more like a film noir-esque movie called The Big Sweat.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm sorry. That is The Big Fall.
The Big Fall. Sorry. But that's also PM, also C. Thomas Howell, but couldn't be any more different from the sweeper. Yeah. It's very understated. It's very, like I said, very influenced by film noir. So I just wanted to throw that in to show that not only did PM have range, C. Thomas Howell also had range when it comes to his PM, the PM era of his career. But I did want to also mention when Jeff Speakman and William Shatner teamed up.
Yes. That's a good one. Land of the Free.
Yes. Great one.
That's a good honorable mention. Yeah.
Yeah. And one other honorable mention I had was Living to Die with
Wings. Any of his wings.
Asher Browner.
They're great. Yes. The smooth jazz score was hilarious.
Yes.
It made me want to watch the Weather Channel, which I thought was great. It was very noirish, film noirish, and it was like a different feel from other PM entertainments, like you said. You still get shootouts, you still get like car chases and things like that, but it wasn't. It was very different from that. And I think for people listening, I think if they're trying to get into PM entertainment, the ones that we listed are much more like on the high octane action, and I think they're a little bit more accessible. Whereas like you've really got to be a Wings fan to enjoy Living to Die or something like that.
Well, that's because Wings he worked with PM over the course of many movies, like with Art of Dying and
Cold Fire,
a lot of them. But so I think any of the Wings output could also be like an honorable mention. But are we including City Lights in this? Because City Lights was the pre-PM company.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, did you have some from there that you were thinking about?
Just because recently we reviewed L.A. Crackdown and L.A. Crackdown 2. And then they did horror movies like Hollowgate. They kind of before they really found their niche, it's kind of interesting to watch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say those are must-see movies, but if you want to see like the prehistory of PM to see how they evolved, I do think the City Lights era would be a good place to go, and also Dance or Die.
Dance or Die, yes, yeah,
You gotta
sure.
watch that one. Matt, have you seen that one, Dance or Die?
No, I haven't. I've been meaning to.
You got to watch it. You got to watch Dance or Die. Everyone listening to this should watch Dance or Die. It's amazing.
That sounds amazing. I mean,
I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, okay, I gotta definitely check that out. Then, yeah, that sounds good. I mean, some of the other PM Entertainments that I was thinking of too that we didn't mention, the Don the Dragon Wilson ones, especially like Ring of Fire. Some of those ones are good.
Out for Blood.
Yeah, good. Yeah, Blood for those were Blood for Blood. Oh yeah.
Out for Blood.
Out for Blood. Yeah, with was that one with James Liu?
And they call him Karate Man. Is that where he's Karate Man?
Yes. So I mean, that's a fantastic one. The Cynthia Rothrock did some as well with PM Entertainment that I really really like. Yeah, Out for Blood. I'm just saying that right now. Yeah. So there were some other ones in there as well, but I feel like I think the list that we have here. And you know, like I said, you can go to the Bulletproof Action one. They have a slightly different list. Like they put T-Force up higher than we had it.
But I get that. I mean, I can see that because what's interesting about T-Force is it's a really interesting mixture of dumb action with like an intelligent, very smartly thought out plot. I think because it's not just a bunch of meatheads like punching each other. There's something really going on in that movie about the nature of humanity and what it means to be human. I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, that's an interesting thing, this idea too of like, you know, and it is kind of, I do think it's kind of funny that that, you know, the thing that's going to get him shut down is the fact that he's blowing up a helicopter, because it's almost like, you know, like, yeah, the nature of being human, you know, the, you know, sort of this existentialist, you know, crisis of like, you know, what this means, but then also the fact that he's doing what everybody in a PM Entertainment movie does.
Right. No, but that I think is what the kind of, not really a conflict, but more like a mixture that makes T-Force interesting, and why I think that's definitely a worthy PM.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely, I think there's. I mean, it's kind of funny that you guys made your list of 5, and it's almost identical to mine. I think. I mean,
that's like pretty interesting.
That is.
Yeah.
Because, but like I said, PM is multifaceted. Like if we're talking about the high octane action, I think both of our lists are the best. Of that, but if you wanted to explore other areas of it, like the Land of the Free type movies, or that movie Dennis Farina, that Crimes. Is it Street Crimes?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Street
that's
Crimes
really good. Yeah, people, you know, Dennis Farina is really great in that movie, Street Crimes, and people might want to check that out too.
Yeah. That's a good point, yeah, because Dennis, you know, a lot of these actors, one thing to keep in mind for people that are looking at PM Entertainment is that these actors get used really well in these movies. So this isn't like a bait and switch kind of thing that you see with a lot of DTVC films. Yeah, you know, these are
Seagal now, like I'm only in it for a minute.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I didn't even think of that. That's true. What you get on the box is what you get.
Yeah, and so, you know, keep that in mind that if you see somebody on the cover, you know, if you see Sam Jones and you're not familiar with Sam Jones, know that you're probably going to see Sam Jones. Some of his best stuff is in PM Entertainment.
Fist of Honor.
Fist of Honor, yeah. You know, I mean, so, you know, that's probably a good thing good point you mentioned. Like if you like Dennis Farina and you haven't seen his PM Entertainment work, it's worth checking out because, you know, it's going to be he's going to be in it. He's going to be used well. They found a way. They knew how to use their actors really well, which I think is something that you don't always see from direct to video for sure.
No, that's true, and also it helps to build trust with the audience. You know, it's not going to be some fly-by-night thing. It helps to build up the fan base. You know, you'll get the best from the actors. You'll get the actors you actually see on the box for, you know, more than just a second, and that really helps to build up the whole fan base, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good note to leave it on here. I think we kind of got. I know we're kind of
that flew by.
I know, it's amazing. It's amazing, and I think too, like, you know, we could have gone on. I think we could have done one episode, I think, a piece on like the sweeper. Or, you know,
no doubt about it.
And maybe that's something to consider in the future. I think it was kind of cool now just to kind of do an overview of what worked for them, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Now, before we wrap up, did you guys want to, you know, mention to people where they can find you and what stuff you have going on?
Sure, Ty, go for it.
I mean, okay, we have on Instagram. I just live on there now.
Well, with your VHS pictures, you're going wild.
I put VHS pictures up on my Instagram every day. So today was Beyond Forgiveness, and if you saw that or not. So that's Ty Action Rocks on Instagram, and then Ty Comeuppance on Twitter, and Letterboxd. I was thinking about Letterboxd. we have an upcoming review list, just like you, right, Matt?
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing, because I haven't. I should probably check your upcoming reviews to kind of see, like, cause also kind of I think one of the things for me with there's so many movies out there in the DTV sphere that sometimes I'll use like what you guys are doing or some of the other Explosive Action or Mitch, whoever at Video Vacuum. I'll be like, oh, okay, maybe that's a movie I should check out, kind of thing, because it almost like there's so many that it's hard not to just go like, okay, if there's a big name in it, I'll just watch that one. It's good to kind of. Yeah,
well, it's part of the fan community. The fan community, we were helping each other out.
Yeah.
But yeah, and to add to some of the other stuff, I'm tired if you want to keep going. But there's also the website comeuppancereviews.net and our podcast, the Comeuppance Reviews podcast.
Yeah, which is fantastic. I think if anybody you definitely subscribe on iTunes to that. I think what you guys do with if you love direct-to-video action in particular, what you guys do with that, with your episodes, the way you kind of group different categories of things together, and or even just talking about a different actor, or like we did when we did the VHS memories. I think it's a really great way to approach. It's a unique way because you guys, coming out from a unique perspective of having done like over 1,200 reviews, and so you guys, it was a big reason why I wanted to have you guys on for this PM Entertainment one, because I knew you guys had seen a bunch and you'd have a really good perspective for this kind of thing.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that, and also I think we're very open about our love for PM. So yeah.
And how do you love it too? We have great minds think alike.
Exactly. But I do think, anybody on Instagram, if you guys aren't following Thai Action Rocks, the VHS is because it's not just like you're just going through your collection, but you're getting, these are older movies. These are ones from like the 80s and 90s. Because I know a lot of people do VHS stuff, but it's kind of, or they just kind of do, collection stuff. But you get some really good. You had a Death Wish one recently.
Death Wish 4.
Wish 4.
I just found that too. So
and just so people know, these are all tapes from Ty's personal collection.
Personal collection. They're not like from like Goodwill. These are in my collection. It's like,
or like taken from somewhere else. These are like pulled off your shelves.
These are my personal shelf.
and it's really great because sometimes it's like I remember that movie because I watched it, or maybe I even own it myself, or it's like you guys did a TC 2000. You did the post for it's coming into 2020. I was going to do a post on myself, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. But it's like, oh my God, yes, seeing that VHS box for that, it is great.
I found that Salvation Army. Just they don't have much for tapes, but I found that one.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to find with those. And so, I think anybody on Instagram who likes that kind of, who has that kind of VHS nostalgia, your Instagram is fantastic. But yes, definitely following you guys on Twitter, I think is great. Ty Comeuppance, because then you're going to get all the news about the blog, and the podcast. So
I always will put them up there. So
and if there's new episodes, new reviews, we just try to keep people informed about that.
Yeah. Usually post every week.
Yeah, and I try to retweet them if I'm on so you can also catch them on there. But definitely things that you got people out there, if you're not already, which I have a feeling just based on like the likes that you guys are getting on the Instagram posts that probably I'm not telling anybody that's listening anything that they haven't already know. Like anybody who has it.
Thanks. But we appreciate that. Yeah, the latest episode. Sorry, Ty.
No, I said thanks for the kind words.
And I second that. And in the latest podcast episode, we talk about blood movies. So we group everything that we talked about on the site that has the word blood in the title.
Blood for Blood and Blood Street.
Did you get into Blood Moon at all on that one?
We did. Blood
beautiful.
Moon.
Yeah, so for anybody listening to this one who wants to get into more, actually, I have a feeling that because this one's not going to come out until the 21st, so your next podcast might actually come out before this one does. But either way, if you haven't listened to that podcast yet, you're looking for more Gary Daniels. Yeah, Blood Moon is another. Yeah, fantastic one to start
Blood
with.
Moon.
And there's nothing, if not a lot of suggestions, I think, on both of our podcasts for, if people are looking for action movies to discover and watch maybe for the first time, we've never heard the titles. I think these overviews, I think, are very helpful to people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I always try to do that. My problem is when I listen to podcasts, I'm usually listening while I'm either doing administrative stuff at work or cooking dinner or something or walking somewhere. So I don't have a pen and pencil handy, but I'm pen and paper. I should write some of these down. The ones that I haven't seen yet or haven't considered yet. Because they're definitely it kind of gives you a good overview of like ones you should want to check out, and sort of keep the ball rolling. If you're someone who's into this kind of movie and you've seen a lot already, you can always go into like your streaming service and see, what's available, like on a Roku or something like that.
A bunch of these PM movies are on Amazon Prime in the U.S.
Yeah, so we're checking out.
And as I always say, there's always one more movie. Like you'll never be in this position where you'll run out of movies, because even if you've seen thousands of movies, there's always one more.
Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe that's a good point to leave it on.
Okay.
I'm just going to quickly. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said great.
Oh, all right, excellent. I'm just going to quickly say, remember, you can always check out Direct to Video Connoisseur, dtvconnoisseur.blogspot.com, and I'm on Instagram at DTV Connoisseur, and what else? Twitter, DTV Connoisseur, kind of everything DTV Connoisseur except for Facebook, which is Direct to Video Connoisseur. So, but everything else is there. But yeah, thank you guys again for coming on. This was a real pleasure.
Anytime.
I enjoyed it.
Anytime.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
All right, Devil. Well, maybe in the future we'll do like a whole sweeper episode or something like that.
Oh yeah,
sweeper.
Focus on
any PM movie or any movie you want. Well, we're here. We're around.
We're around. We'll happily do it.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you guys again, and everybody else, thank you for listening. And we'll be back soon with another Direct to Video Connoisseur podcast. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.